Last summer, I visited Armagnac Darroze, and Marc Darroze told us everything there is to know. So, how his father started the business, how they collaborate with the different producers, and what makes them truly special compared to a, let's say, normal negociant. So, check out the tour, have fun.
So, a little explanation about the history of this company. My family has always been involved in the restaurant industry in this area. My grandfather, long time ago, had a small cafe, in the village. That my grandfather Jean moved in gastronomic restaurant with two-star Michelin. It was in the 50s, between the two wars, when more developed after the Second War. And my grandfather was working with three children. Two were cooking, and my father was in charge of the dining room, the wine selection, and the Armagnac selection. As you know, there was a tradition, there is still a tradition, but there was a big tradition at this time of polyculture in Gascony. So my grandfather, with his sons, used to travel in the countryside to buy some food to cook, vegetables, animals, all what you can imagine to cook were selected directly to the farm. And of course, when my grandfather visited these farmers, he had the opportunity to test some old Armagnacs waiting there, waiting for who knows, this tradition to distill some wine and keep the Armagnac for the next generations. And of course, in the 50s, in the 60s, in the wine list, there was a special Armagnac section with a lot of single farm, single vintage, cask strength Armagnac. It was really a selection of barrels that he purchased by Dame Jeanne, or big bottles that we call Pot Gascon in Armagnac, this classic size of 2.5 liters. And of course, as a restaurateur, my father and my grandfather always indicated on the menu, on the list, the origin and the name of each Armagnac or each producer, even if this producer were completely unknown, because it was so small that by respect to their job, it was very important for them to indicate the name of each farm or each farmer. And during decades, the investment of the family in the Armagnac was only focused in the selection of Armagnac to sell by the glass at the restaurant. It was beginning of the 70s that my father decided to sell some few bottles to the best clients from the restaurant. So it was end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. So few bottles, it means maybe 12 bottles of months, nothing. But for the good client who really enjoyed Armagnac, they started to under the table bottle some Armagnacs to more often as a present to offer. And rapidly, he imagined it was possible to propose this selection of Armagnac to other restaurants in France. So he created this company, not in this cellar at this time. My grandfather, the father of my mother, was a carpenter, and he stopped to work at this time. So my father started in the factory, the small factory of my grandfather, his father-in-law, with three casks from three different farms. And of course, this selection of the three first Armagnacs were focused on old Armagnacs that he was able to bottle rapidly, because he didn't have the time and financial power to distill and wait 15, 20, 25 years. So he started with three different origins, three different farmers, three different vintages, and the idea was exactly the same as what he did at the restaurant. respect the name of the farm, of course indicate on the label the origin and the name of the farm, respect the vintage, so no blending between different vintages, and not tannins or boisé additive, of course, and cask strength. Exactly as a sommelier, the same as a sommelier. And rapidly, because you know, in the restaurant industry, it's a little bit a mafia, you know, there is a lot of connections, they all know each other very well. So rapidly, some good friends purchased some Armagnacs, and he came back in the countryside to select other cask and new Armagnacs. So after 18 months of work, he already selected 10, 15 different Armagnacs from different casks and different farms. It really started as a negociant in 1974. Okay, so a little bit more than 50 years ago. In 1975, so the year after, he distilled his first barrel to control a little bit the maturation and to understand the maturation. So very rapidly, he invested only one cask because he didn't have enough money to invest more. But for him, it was very important to start to understand a little bit better and to distill himself, to control a little bit the distillation and to control the maturation from the distillation till the bottling. The name of this farm was Domaine de Martin. And Domaine de Martin, this is still one of our partners today. So it's a long history. In 1977, he exported the first bottles in Luxembourg with a partner called Wendler Weber. This is still our distributor in Luxembourg. So it's a long story. And year after year, as what we call today an independent bottler, exactly what we call an independent bottler. This job didn't exist at this time, but he was one of the first ones to really select some barrels and bottle the Armagnac without any blending, without changing the style and the character of each Armagnac. He built a collection of single farm, single estate, single vintage Armagnac. 1981 was a very, very important year for him. Has first my grandfather, so his own father, passed away at this time. And when my father started this business, he stopped to work with his father at the restaurant. So he didn't work at the restaurant anymore. And when my father passed away in 1981, he decided to come back to the restaurant and to take in charge of the restaurant. So he had two jobs, one in Armagnac and one as a restaurateur with a big hotel. So it was not a small restaurant. So 81 was important for that. 81 was also important because he purchased very, very important inventory of Armagnac from a single estate called Domaine de Saint-Aubin, about 220 casks from 1958 vintage till 81. It was more than what my father had in stock at this time, so it was a big investment for him. And 81 was also the first exportation in the States. So it was the time when the sales really increased a lot and the size of the company changed. So he had to build this first cellar to store, of course, this purchase of Saint-Aubin. So everything changed in the 80s.
Marc, is this the same Saint-Aubin that we
No.
know today, Créance?
No.
It's not at all.
It's not the same, and in fact, in 1982, he purchased the complete stock of Saint-Aubin in 2 years, in 2 steps, because it was a lot of money to invest, so it was not possible for him to buy on only one time. So he purchased in 81 50% of the inventory, and in 83 the second part. And unfortunately, between 81 and 82 and 83, the owner of Saint-Aubert, Monsieur Saint-Jean, who was also horse, how do you say, horse
Breeder?
Lever?
Breeder.
Passed away. He was sick, in fact. And the children pulling out all the vineyards in 83. So the last vintage of this Saint-Aubert was 82. After 82, there is no more vintage of this Saint-Aubert. It's in Louga, so it's,
Okay, so just
it's a different one.
because we went to Chateau Saint-Aubin.
It's a different one.
It's not the same
It's
one
a
that we
different one.
visited.
Okay. But it's a very important. It was very important for my father because again it changed the size of the company, it changed the inventory, and it changed the pressure to continue to increase and to build the name and the brand. At this time, on each label, in the very huge character, you could read the name of the farm, and in very small character selected by Francis Darroze. It was really, we focused all the communication in the estate, and we didn't, he didn't imagine at this time he was building a kind of brand, because for him it was just something he enjoyed when he was sommelier at the restaurant, but it was not for him the challenge to really build a brand when he started this business. Okay. Of course, we have developed also partnerships with producers to distill more and more, to control more and more the aging process, to really select our barrels, to select also how we want to use the new cask, all what we must control when we aging. The idea was to be able to buy earlier and earlier the selection of Armagnac to keep the control of the process. In 1994, I joined him. I was a winemaker. I made a wine in the States. I made one in Hungary. I made one in Bordeaux. And 1994 was a very, very difficult moment for the business, because it was the first war in Iraq. I don't know if you remember. And the markets were a little bit like now, very, very difficult. So my father was in charge of the restaurant, also the business here, and both were quite difficult. So my sister Hélène was working with Alain Ducasse in Monaco at this time, as a, how to say, right arm, on dit en français. No, she wasn't cooking at this time.
Oh, okay.
She was as an assistant, exactly. And in fact, Alain Ducasse started to build what he has right now, so this big empire, we can say. And Hélène was just finishing the school, because she didn't go to the culinary school. And so my father called us and told us, okay, that's hard. Alone it's very difficult. Can we speak to see if you are interested to come back? So I came back here, and my sister came back at the restaurant. But unfortunately, if rapidly here, it was, I went to visit my wholesalers in the States, everywhere, and very rapidly everything came back. So it was much easier for me than it was for my sister at the restaurant, and unfortunately we had to close the hotel and the restaurant in 1999, so 5 years after. And that's when my sister moved to Paris to open her first restaurant. And we continue this story here. And with a new, of course, energy. As I was younger, I was speaking English. It was not a problem for me to travel and to meet some of our wholesalers or importers. And rapidly, a new energy arrived in the company. So of course, we also sign more and more partnerships with producers to have more and more control and more diversity in our selection. But we only focus our activity in this philosophy, single farm, single estate, single vintage. And during many, many years, till 2010, we only focus our activity, we only have one line of product that we call a unique collection. So this philosophy to really respect, show the differences between each production, each farm, each cask. So this is all the information that you can see on each cask: Ourasté, Paggy, Rieston, Salier, Perle, Martin. This is the name of each farm. Okay, so today our job consists in first distilling and aging some Armagnacs from different origin. We continue to buy and to select some cask already mature, because 25 years ago, of course, we didn't know exactly how many Armagnacs we will bottle this year. So we need to buy some old Armagnac to make our line and to sell. So we distill for the next generation. I start to sell some Armagnac that we have distilled ourselves, because we started to I started a long time ago, but now more and more we use our own distillation. But we continue to select some Armagnac, first because we have a range of vintage Armagnacs, so we want to propose as many vintage as possible. So we have to buy new ones from different small producers to have a full collection. But also because we have developed new line, so now we have a line of more classic blended Armagnacs that we call les grands assemblages. The grands assemblages means the great blends in French, with 8 years old, 12 years old, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So 7 different casks, 7 different cuvées, from 8 to 60 years old. Of course, the approach and the philosophy in this range is a bit different. Our goal is to be very consistent in style. So our job is to find a good taste and the good character of the Armagnac that we're going to blend all together to respect the style of each age. So 8 years old, 12 years old will be, of course, more fruity. 20 years old, more complex, started to have some taste from nat or what you know, you can imagine. And this line, these Armagnacs are a little bit diluted to 43%. So a little bit easier to drink. A line that we use a lot to educate people, because we can show the evolution of the Armagnac during the time. And this line also changed the size of our company, as in 12 months we have doubled our sales. Because in fact we had a lot of clients, a lot of importers in the world who used to buy some vintage Armagnac from Darroze and blended Armagnacs from another brand, another company, another producer. So when we have proposed in the same time blended Armagnacs and vintage Armagnacs, of course all of them, or most of them, decided to focus their selection with Darroze. So we have developed a lot ourselves with the Grand Assemblage, and these two lines today represent about 90% of what we sell. Even if we have a line of Blanche, of course, we also have a small selection of organic product, as we have 3 partners who are working organically. So we also have a line of 5 Armagnacs, 4 years old, 7 years old, and 3 vintages organic. We also have a very selective and unique selection of very, very old Armagnacs in a special crystal decanter that we call the Luxe Gascon, but of course very limited in quantity because of the rarity and because of the price also. So we have developed different things, but the grand assemblage and the unique collection of single farm, single vintage represents 90% of what we do today. About our organization, so we have different wine aging cellars in different parts of the countryside. First, because we want different conditions of maturation. Second, because we want to share the risk of fire. And third, because this cellar, which was the first one, is too small to have all of them. So we have developed different places of maturation. We have about 20 years of sales in stock, so we have a huge stock for the next generation. To give you an idea, the average in cognac is 5-6 years. This is a little bit more in Armagnac, but 20 years it's a lot. Also because
A little bit more.
and also because we don't make any VS, VSOP, so we have to prepare the future. So we have to develop our distillation to prepare the Armagnac for the next generation. Don't forget that we have some 30, 40, 50, 60 years old Armagnac. So if we don't distill for the next generation, so we have to do that. Of course, financially, this is sometimes a little bit tough, but that's how we work. Today we continue to have a very strong market in French, as Armagnac in general, but for us it's very important. So we are very present in the restaurant, still in the restaurant, because of this connection of the family with the restaurant, but also because all these single farm Armagnacs and all these different styles of Armagnac, somebody like that because they have something to explain. So on each bottle we indicate the name of the farmer, the type of oak we have used, the size of the vineyard, of course the grape varieties, all these kind of informations that the sommelier could be interesting to have to explain to the clients. So we really deal as a wine grower with a lot of details. So we are still very present in the restaurants, but also in the classic cavist and wine shop. But we also have developed a lot of the export markets. As today we sell in about 40 countries, sometimes few bottles. It can be very little. And our main market are the markets of Armagnac, the US, the Asian market. China is now important for us, and Russia, because of course these last 2 years it's more difficult, but that's usually how it works for us, and of course all the countries in Europe. So we usually have exclusive partnerships with importers. There is few countries where we have different ones because of the organization of the country. But what we want is to really look for and find the good partner, able to understand what we are doing. Armagnac is a niche market, as you know, but maybe we are on the niche of the niche with cask strength. That's not so easy to explain what we do. So we have to find a good partner able to understand what we do and to explain to the client what we are doing. So that's always what we challenging and what we are looking for, the good partner. So of course we are very careful to look at the selection of the other categories on the portfolio. So it's a good indication for us to feel the philosophy of our partners. And usually, as I told you, we have a kind of exclusive cooperation with these people. They focus their selection of Armagnac with Darroze, and we focus our importer with them. What we like to do is to build long-term partnerships, as we know that every morning in China there is not so many people who ask naturally Armagnac in their breakfast. So we have to propose, to explain, to teach, to educate, And that's the reason why you are very important for Armagnac and for us, because all this individual person who can help us to educate and to explain what Armagnac is and how Armagnac is different than the other ones is very helpful for our brand like Darroze and like all the other brands in Armagnac.
Marc, you were saying that you have started to distill quite a while ago. Can you explain, as a negociant, how do you do that? Because usually it's producers that are distilling.
There is different ways. You can have your own distillery, where in fact you move the wine from the domain to the distillery. In this case, if you really want to have some single lot, you have to stop to distill when you have finished to distill the wine from this estate. You have to stop to clean and to start another distillation to be sure that you won't mix wines from different origin. Okay, that's not what we are doing. Today we prefer to move the alembic from an estate to the other one. That's a tradition in Armagnac to use some mobile alembic. So we do have some farmers who have their own alembic. So in this case, we use their own alembic. We also have our own alembic, or we use also Philippe Gironi to. It depends. We have different methods, but we prefer to move the Armagnac distill than to move the wine before the distillation. For two reasons, for three reasons. First, it's because it's convenient, and we don't have a fixed distillery. Second, because we like the idea to see the Armagnac born at home. That's an idea. And third, because as you know, all the wines are free of sulfites, so not protected. So we prefer not to move too much the wine. Prefer to move the spirit, very strong and solid, without any risk of anything, than moving the wine where the risk can be a little bit more important because there is no protection with sulfites or whatever. That's how we deal today. The only problem with this organization is that we cannot explain on a fixed building how the distillation is working. You know, the distillation is very special in Armagnac, so we distill night and days. There is always some parties at the Alembic. You can invite some clients, you can invite some journalists, you can invite some people that you want to invite. Neighborhood, you can play card, you can do what. That's a special moment, the distillation, special atmosphere, and of course, sometimes it's difficult to invite some clients at the estate because first conditions are not, facilities are not sometimes very nice. So maybe the idea for us in the next years. To change a little bit the organization and to build our own facilities, again, to take advantage of this moment, which is crazy. But for the moment, and for the last 30 years, 35 years, that's how we have developed our distillation. So we bring the barrels to the farm, we fill the barrels, and we move the barrels that we organize in our cellars.
So because you're doing that, the barrels aren't aging at the property. Can you say like chateau, blah blah blah? Because you know the term domain and chateau. Are you still allowed to use that?
But we could use the name of domain if we had our fixed distillery, and if you stop to distill the different lots.
Okay.
You have to stop. You have to clean, and you have to declare to the custom that it's finished. All the wine from Domaine de Martin is distilled, so now I can stop for a day, for example, 24 hours, and the day after you distill another origin.
Okay.
So if you can prove that you move the wine from the estate to the distillery at the right time, you stop to distill between two origin, you can
call it chateau. Because I was under the impression with our set of guidelines that it was like in wine. If you want to have the label chateau, it had to be
distilled at home. No.
Okay, so
No.
Lovely to see that you still have some products from the time before the company was founded.
For sure.
It's lovely.
But in fact, again, don't forget that my father was an independent bottler, and we are still an independent bottler. There is many Armagnacs in this cellar that have been controlled at the farm by the producer in the majority of the time of the maturation. That's a part of our business model.
Your DNA.
So we have distillation every year for the next generation and for the future. So we prepared the future for my children or my grandchildren or whatever. But we also continue to purchase some old Armagnacs because we need some. If we want to propose some 50 years old Grand Assemblage, it's because there is still 50 years old Armagnacs available in the countryside. Not so much right now, less and less, but and that's a part of our job, this ability to know a lot of small producers, know exactly where are the good Armagnacs, and pay also the price for that. But on the other way, prepare the future, distill, and work very closely with our partners and our vine growers, I can say. That's our organization. Maybe one day also we will invest in vineyards. But the reason why today we did not, first because we cannot invest everywhere. First. Second, because that's a different job. And third, because we don't want to focus on only one estate. One of the reasons why we have built a reputation so rapidly, because we are a young company. If you have visited many different brands in Armagnac, and you can see that we are very young compared to D'Artigalongue, for example, which is one of the oldest, or Castaret or whatever. We are young in the business, but rapidly we have created a reputation because we have this diversity. And so that's very important for us to keep the diversity. And of course, if we have only one vineyard from one terroir, there is a risk to lose the diversity. So that's also the reason why we continue to develop this partnership with many small producers. I prefer to distill, let's say, 10 casks from one producer, 10 casks from another, than distilling 50 casks from the same producer, because I want diversity.
Just one question. In this room here, in the cellar, do you have casks from producer from Bas Armagnac and from Haut Armagnac and from Tenerife, or is it only that you have in one area of the Armagnac only that particular Armagnac?
Alors, my family, the restaurant of my family was very close to this village, in Villers de Marsan. This is just the beginning of the Bas Armagnac on the west part of the appellation. And of course, my father and my grandfather were focused in this area that we sometimes call the Great Bas Armagnac, which is not an official name. And we were focused during many years very close to this sandy soil of Bas Armagnac. But we have developed...
Dealing with neighbors.
Exactly, exactly. First because there was plenty of neighbors with very nice Armagnacs, and also because that was where they were living. But year after year we have developed partners from different parts of Bas Armagnac, and even from Tenerife. We don't have any Haut Armagnac. 90%, more, 95% of the Armagnac selected in this cellar are from Bas Armagnac. Just few of them are from Tenerife, mainly in the old vintages, because when we have the chance to find some old vintages from Tenerife and nice, of course, we continue to propose old vintages to our clients, which can be sometimes a problem because there is less and less old vintages, of course, available. But we are more focused in Bas Armagnac because of the history and because there is more production also in Bas Armagnac.
Yeah.
So
you have two extra marks apart from the year and the name of the farm. You have two extra marks here. I guess that one of them is the is the alcohol strength.
No.
49.9 for
Oh, yes.
example here.
Yeah,
And
this is exactly
47
because
and 53.9.
we close our financial sheet in June.
Okay, that's why you just
So we
checked it.
just check each barrel
Mhm,
last month
Mhm.
to close our. So this is 35. This is the level of Armagnac in the size.
Oh, okay.
35 centimeters, and 47. This is
Centimeters. Okay, that was
when we
because
check.
I was just thinking
Interesting
350
for you to
liters.
know. So we have to declare to the custom at the end of the year the angel share. The only way to declare, to calculate how much we have lost in the last 12 months is to check physically
the height.
Right.
each cask. So what we check is volume and alcohol. Because as you know, we always pay fees on pure alcohol.
And when you check the alcohol strength, is that always calculated to 20 degrees centigrade, or is it a different calculation?
If you close your year in December, of course the Armagnac is colder.
That's why.
So we have a special table which permit to correct. So when you check at 5
you have an
degrees
Anton
centigrade,
par,
you
probably?
have, let's say, 43, and with this table, you know exactly how much is it at 20.
Okay, and that's what. So what you
The
mentioned here
the
is
best
20.
is really to check at 20, but
Yeah,
some-
yeah, of course.
you have the
because
conditions you have, but we, of course, there is a correction.
I work with an Anton par, and it always calculates automatically to 20 degrees, and that's
what we
why
have.
what I'm asking.
So-
yeah, okay.
So let me finish to explain. So each cask is check, and of course on the computer we have the volume and alcohol that we have checked a year before minus all what we have sold in the year. And there is always a difference between what we have checked physically and what we have in the computer. That's how much we have lost in the year.
Of course.
So we do that for each cask, and after that we calculate for the stock. And of course, we can lose 6% of evaporation maximum. After that, we have to pay the fees. To give you an idea, we are between 2.63% of evaporation every year.
Okay. I noticed these misters, humidifiers, so you want to keep the
Alors, during many years, before we really increased the distillation, this cellar was the only cellar where we aged from Armagnac. So we had on the first floor all the young Armagnacs, and in this ground floor all the oldest ones. So of course we wanted to control the humidity because we want more humidity when we start the maturation. We prefer to lose rapidly some alcohol during the first years. And as you know, the more humid will be the cellars, the more we lose rapidly some alcohol. The drier will be the cellars, the more we lose volume, water. So we control the humidity in the cellar. And this is for all our cellars. This is why you can see that this is this equipment to control the humidity. In fact, it's like, you know, when you go to the supermarket, you can see that they spray some little bubbles of water on the fruit, or that's exactly the same. Now, because we have all the young Armagnac, all the young Armagnacs in another cellars, we use this equipment less and less. But the most important for us is really to have high level of humidity during the first 5-6 years.
And what level of humidity would that be?
Between 76 to 82, 82, 84.
As I said, everything above 75.
So
During the first years, After that, it's less.
Yeah. But we were talking about that. What is ideal for that? And I said, well, I estimated everything above 75, so I was not wrong with that.
Don't forget that
Yeah.
more than 50% of the Armagnac that we sell are cask strength.
Yeah, of course.
So we have to
Which
lose
use a little bit.
we have to
And this
put
is
some
kind of a natural dilution.
exactly.
Yes.
And it makes the Armagnac rounder, softer,
And
accelerate a little bit the process of
it-
maturation.
it keeps your cask alive, and there are so many benefits. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Talking about cask, Marc, with the Armagnacs that you are distilling, are you selecting specific cooperages? Are you working with one cooper, a few? Do you have a strategy with that?
Well, we are moving a little bit. During many years, we classically we only use one type of oak. So this classic local oak, le chêne pédonculé, you know, with this large grain. You are now a specialist, so you know. And with a medium toast. Now, what we do is we toast less and less our cask.
Okay.
So what we do is, you know how it's working. When you are finished to make your barrel, usually you put some more wood, oak on the fire to have some flame
Some
and to
toast.
burn inside. What we ask our copper is not to add some more, so to keep the barrel on the fire but without any flame. And for a long time, this is about 30 minutes. Why? Because in fact, what we like is to preserve the natural fruity character. We don't like to have something too oaky. And that's with our experience, with this long, light toast, we preserve this character. But on the other way, we started now 10 years ago some experimentation with another copper in Bordeaux, where we burn a lot. We have different experimentation, but in general, we use our classic system in Armagnac with the chêne pédonculé, 400 liters, and not too much burn inside. Again, I will never tell you that Armagnac is the best spirit in the world, but I can tell you that we have the capacity to propose a unique character, a unique style compared to the other spirit. Why? Because we have local grape variety. We are maybe the only one to produce a great spirit on sandy soil.
Yeah.
I don't know other brandies in the world where they produce great spirit in sand. We have this way to distill, and this alembic completely different than the other ones. And with this distillation, of course, there is a big difference, you know, in the column and everything. We also have the chance to have some forest, which can provide some different oak.
Yes.
And these combinations of different things permit to propose something different. Again, not better, but and in this company, our main values are authenticity. So which will make our Armagnacs authentic and different is preserve. So that's the reason why we prefer to use some local oak than oak from. Second value is respect of course, our producer, but also respect of the Armagnac. So we never had any syrup, additive, sugar, boisé in all our lines. We never use anything like that. So it's very important. And also respect, as I told you, we have a long partnership with a lot of producers, with a lot of importers. So the word respect is very important for us. Independent, so we are an independent company. So we don't owned by a big group. So it means that we are completely free to define our philosophy, to make some mistake also sometimes, because we do, of course. But that's important for us to stay independent. Of course, Also, if we when you are working in a big group and you have some investment to make, it's easier to have some money arriving from the group. But that's the other part of the dark part of our system. But independent is important for us, and also pleasure. Pleasure, it's also very important for us. Don't forget that we produce a product, and the idea is to bring some pleasure to our client and to take some pleasure in our side. And now we can say that the fifth value that we have developed these last 3-4 years is also, how can I say in English, develop new things. So we have
Innovation.
a little bit innovation. Innovation, as you know, because we are an appellation d'origine contrôlée, innovation is limited by the cahier des charges, and we cannot do what we have to do. But we try to develop new approach of the Armagnac, a little bit different moments of consumptions. Also explain that it's possible to have a very light Armagnac. If we compare with the Scotch whisky, we can also propose some light Armagnac without any coloring and interesting on the rock for the aperitif. Or that there is maybe new things that we can develop a little bit. And of course, the Graal, I don't know to say in English, but you know, more and more people would like to play on the cocktail scene because that's where we developed the sale, for sure. So we try also to move a little bit in this big market where the competition is
Huge.
a war, because the big brands want to stay and they have some, of course, power that we don't have. But more and more bartender want to different product, different things to propose to. So we can find our place in the niche part of this big market. But I'm sure that the Armagnac can find its place on the on this market also.
That's
How-
a good choice.
How many farmers does he?
About 30.
Huh?
About 30.
30. The oldest one you have here.
Alors, in the cask, this is the 1962. In the gob, you can see the cask when you arrive. And on the Damajan, 1904.
So 60. Yeah.
04, yeah.
Something
But in the cask, still in the cask. Also, what I didn't tell you, on each label, you will see. So the name of the farm, so Darroze now, and Darroze now it's more than when my father started. So you can see because 99% of our clients buy the selection. They don't ask about Ouraste, Rieston. They trust us to make the selection. Of course, there is few old clients that prefer this origin or this origin, but from China, people ask for Darroze and they don't ask for. So, so on each label, you will find our name, and after that, the name of the farm, okay, the vintage, the date of the bottling with the month and the year. So we bottle on demand. This small bottling machine, it's because we bottle on demand. And also we indicate how many years the Armagnac stay in the cask. So the oldest vintage that we still have in the cask is 1962. Okay, and for the blends, for where we sell more volume, so we have a classic bottling line, more and more. But for the vintage, we really bottle on demand in small quantities. A good order for us, a nice order from New York, let's say from New York, can be 36 bottles of this one, 24 bottles of this one, 12 bottles of this one. We can have a mix palette of 20 different Armagnacs. That's our job. So a lot of things are made by hand, of course, because there is no machine to work with small quantities. So that's our part of our job.
When you distill with one of your partners, do you usually buy all of the fresh Armagnac,
No,
or do
it
they
depends.
keep sometimes for
Good
their
question.
own aging, so that you can have the same vintage from the same producer, from your cellar or from the producer's cellar?
That's a good. More than that. So both. There is estates or farms where we are exclusive.
Okay.
Because the production is not huge, or because we have a long partnership with them. That's the case of Martin, Rieston, all these small farms over there. I also push them to buy one cask, to keep one cask, not to buy, to keep one cask. Why? Because to me that's the tradition. So that's important that they keep a cask. Also because they always have a demand of bottles from France or whatever. And also because that's interesting to come back 10 years after to test their Armagnac in the estate.
Yeah,
to
that
test
would be
our-
that's why I was asking.
It's very interesting. And after that, there is other farmers where they are much bigger in size. So they can make wine Côte de Gascogne. Also distill some wine for their own production. And sometimes they can also have other partnership with other negociants. But in this case, we are the only one to use the name on the label. We are just few people to really follow this philosophy, to really not blend different origins together. So there is other negotiation. We can also buy some production from the same estate, but use to blend with other ones.
Regarding, I notice they're all up with chalk, all of the names and so on. For your stock inventory system, you mentioned about a computer. You don't have like a serial number on these casks, or is there?
10, 109, 108, 107.
Okay.
On the side.
Okay.
That's what the custom asks. The custom doesn't care about
that's
Morasté or whatever.
I hadn't seen this, but
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I was wondering.
Yeah.
It's like a barcode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But
Armagnac
in
style.
fact,
Yeah.
we have so many different information that we
Yeah.
have to follow
Yeah.
that when there is some new regulations at the custom, they come to see how we do, because we have to be so respectful of
Of course, yeah.
it. That's all Armagnacs that we have distilled. When we start the maturation, so we put in this cask,
Yeah.
and we open a special sheet information to follow the history of each Armagnac. So we know exactly that this Armagnac stayed 18 months in the new cask,
Yeah.
middle toast, that this cask maybe have been used before during 2 years. We have all these information.
So these numbers here, are they fixed to the physical vessel?
Exactly.
And so regardless if the liquid changes, the number is always the same.
That's what the custom has.
Yeah, perfect.
Marc, do you aerate? Do you sort
We-
out the
Of course,
Armagnacs? How
we,
often?
of course, that's our recipe, I can say. But yes, we do. Of course, we usually use new cask during the 18-24 first months, depending on the grape, depending on the year. But that's how we do. We like to aerate a lot during the first 5-6 years, not after. Again, because we lose a little bit the aggressivity of the alcohol. We don't lose too much alcohol, but we lose this feeling of burning character. So of course we do. So we can make some pump over. So usually what we do is when we have, for example, 12 casks from the same farm, once a year, once every 10 months, we blend all the casks together.
Of the same vintage.
Of the same
Yeah.
vintage, same farm and same vintage, to have only one load. This is when we aerate. So if the load is important, so we can make a pump over in the tank with a small pump, with a small volume, very delicate. And after that, we test the load and we decide, okay, we pump back the Armagnac in the same cask because we imagine that we can the Armagnac will accept more oaky character, for example. Or we can say, okay, maybe we will put 50% of the load in the same cask and 50% in all the cask, or 100% in all the cask. That's when we decide how we will control the maturation.
And that's really important Like it's just
That's
such a
important,
know-how.
and that's not so easy because in
Yeah.
fact you have to play with, of course, the cask that you have available
Exactly.
to refill. So that's always, that's the most interesting part of our job. Not the most, but that's a very interesting part of the job. Control your stock of empty cask and age of cask. Because of course, for example, this cask is older than the Armagnac inside. It's a 1979, and this cask is maybe 60 or 70 years old. The most important is to keep the cask always full.
Yeah.
When you empty the cask, maximum, 2 months empty, maximum. But the best is to refill very rapidly. If not, the cask dry, and there is some leak, and you cannot use it anymore.
Oh.
So that's the most important.
And the
And we
aeration,
have,
and the aeration and the blending of the cask of the same vintage. Do you do that mostly for the young vintages or also for the older?
yeah, during the 5 first years, it
Yeah.
depends, of course, also of the time that we have. No, I'm very
Yeah.
honest with you and free.
I mean, it's
And direct with you, we have to place with many things, but what we like to do is at least once a year during the first 5 years.
Okay, okay. So if we have now a 90s vintage, usually there was no blending in the last year, so it's you can treat it as a single cask, and you will have bigger differences between the casks.
No,
No?
because
Okay.
when we propose to our client, when we put in the price list one Armagnac, we always blend all the barrels together before. to be
Okay,
sure that we have the
okay,
same load.
okay, okay.
My father in the past did that.
Yeah,
So
okay.
sometimes you switch from a customer one from the same vintage and same farm with 2 different level of alcohol. Because no, now we what we want to do. Our philosophy is complex because our catalog is like that.
Wow.
We have so many different Armagnacs in the collection, the blends and all the other ones. So now we want to really have only one lot for one single Armagnac from the same estate and same farm.
Can I ask you, if you said when you have a few casks, you could lot them together and blend them. When you only have one cask to aerate, do you empty out a single cask to aerate them?
No, we have some very small hoses,
Yeah.
and it's possible to put the one on the
Yeah.
on the bottom and the other one on the top.
Okay.
Like that.
And circulate around so they
But usually again
yeah.
we aerate the young Armagnacs.
Yeah.
And we
You
don't-
have
we
plenty
don't-
of them. Yeah,
We don't
exactly.
distill only one
Yeah,
cask.
yeah, makes sense.
In the past it was
Yeah.
the case, but now we don't.
So that would be just a pump on one side, aerating it up, and it drops down.
We also have what we call, it's a special tank that we use for the milk. With a lot of people do that. So when we have small load,
Yeah.
we fill this tank. There is a
a turbine, comme une turbine.
An agitator.
agitator,
Agitator,
to avoid the milk to, so you have
For
you
cream.
have to to avoid to
Yeah.
cream.
Yeah.
So that's exactly the same.
Yeah.
We can also put some temperature control. We
Okay.
don't, but we could,
Yeah.
like for the milk, and so we aerate like that.
Mm.
We also have this kind of technique to aerate.
Cool.
Can we maybe go to
Yeah.
the tasting?
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for all
you.
the details.
My pleasure.
Incredible.
Yeah.